In this video, we're going to be looking at opposites, zero pairs, and additive inverse. First, opposites. Opposites are numbers whose sum is 0. An example would be 45 is the opposite of negative 45. Let me show you a few more examples. Negative 300 is the opposite of 300. Let's count the places. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So 19 and 425 thousandths is the opposite of negative 19 and 425 thousandths. Negative 1/4 is the opposite of 1/4. So opposites together form 0. So if you were to add those together, you would get 0. Let's look at zero pairs. This is a very similar concept. Zero pairs. A pair of numbers whose sum is 0, like negative 2 and 2. Which of the following are zero pairs? Now, when you complete your math maze, you're allowed to use a calculator. So let's use a calculator to see if 15 and negative 15 gives us 0. So I'm going to type in negative 15 plus 15, and that gives us 0. So that's a zero pair. So I'm going to circle that. That is a zero pair. Let's try another one. Let's try 21/5 and negative 21/5. Alright, so I'll use this little fraction bar piece over here, and I'll type in 21/5 plus, and then use the fraction bar again, 21/5, and I need to make it negative, so I'm going to just click on this side of the fraction bar. Oh, and I need to use I use my arrow to move it over on my pad, my keyboard pad, and then make that negative, and then that equals 0. So if they're the same number but one is negative and one is positive, you're going to get 0. So that's a zero pair as well. I think you get the idea. So let's just go through this without typing in every single one to a calculator. So this is a zero pair, one is positive, one is negative. This is not a zero pair because they're both positive. This is not a zero pair, those are both negative. These are exactly the same number except for one is negative and one is positive, so that's a zero pair. This is 2/3, and this is negative 3/2. They're not both the same number, so those are not a zero pair. And then finally, we need to talk about additive inverse. It's the number you add to the given number to get a sum of 0. So negative 18 is the additive inverse of 18. So again, this is a very similar concept to what we've been talking about. What is the additive inverse of 12? Well, you'd have to add negative 12 to 12 to get 0. What is the additive inverse of negative 30? You would have to add 30 to negative 30 to get 0. So 30 is the additive inverse of negative 30. What is the additive inverse of 3/7? Negative 3/7. And what is the additive inverse of negative 6.2? Well, if you add 6.2 to negative 6.2, you would get 0. So 6.2 is the additive inverse of negative 6.2.